Hello gamers, I am Mike TheZorch, and this is Gamers Bay Weekly. The show's been on hiatus for a little while, so we're coming back, and I've got three major news stories that happened while we were gone. First one we're going to cover is the delay of Starfield. This is having a diversive effect on the gaming community. They're pretty mixed on this, but there were some people who were in the know about the development of Starfield, and they said that if they released on their planned release date of 11/11/2022, which is a callback to Skyrim's release date, it would be another Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I'm not dissing Cyberpunk 2077. It's actually a very good game, but it had issues when it was launched, which is why CD Projekt Red is ditching their own engine and switching to Unreal Engine 5. There was nothing wrong with the game, gameplay-wise and story and everything. It's actually a very good game. It's just that the technology that they built for it just wasn't up to snuff for the older consoles. The newer consoles better, and PC performance was mixed. It really improved when they added the support for AMD FSR. That really improved. But getting back to the story, I was saying it was going to be another Cyberpunk, and Bethesda has recently had issues with launching games in a bad state, because there was, of course, Fallout 76. That was a very big problem for them. That was launched in a very poor state. People lambasted them for that, and I think they want to avoid that. So delays are good. Shigeru Miyamoto said that a delayed game is a better game, and I agree with him. I think I would rather that a game be delayed than be launched broken. Which is why I think Star Citizen, when it launches, and we just had an update on that recently on its major progress. I think when it comes out, it's going to be awesome, because the devs were allowed to take their time. And I think it's going to demonstrate to the gaming industry that if you rush a game, it's going to be broken, but if you take your time, it's going to be great. So now these companies are corporations that are developing these games, and they are trying to get them out at certain times in order to meet certain financial forecasts. And that's a problem. That's a very big problem. And the reason why it is because it forces the developers to rush, it forces crunch time, and it forces them to have poor working conditions for the developers because they're hurrying so fast. And it ends up making a poor game, and they end up having to fix it later with patches and updates, or completely abandoning it like EA did with Anthem. So I know that when the game launches, when Starfield launches, we're likely going to see bugs. I mean, they're called Bugthesda for a reason. Every Bethesda game has launched with some kind of issue, and this is not going to be any different. And Starfield probably going to get an unofficial community patch, just like every other Bethesda game, except for Fallout 76. It's about every game that supports mods, and Starfield's probably going to support mods too, because it's built off of the same engine as Skyrim and all those other games. It's going to have support for creation engine mods. Then there's going to be a community-based fix for bugs. I guarantee it. That's going to happen. But I think, I've been wanting to see Starfield ever since it was announced, to see what it's all about. I was hoping for the release this year, but if it means that the game launches with fewer bugs, then I'd rather it be delayed than not delayed. Next news story is the Square Enix sale of their three big Western studios. Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal. They've sold them to Embracer Group for $300 million. Now, Embracer Group is, I think, the Swedish company, holding company. They own Deep Silver and Gearbox, so they're no strangers to video games. Like in their announcement, they talked about bringing back Legacy of Kain, which that's a game franchise I haven't heard in a long time. I really do hope they bring it back, and I hope they do something more with Deus Ex as well. Now, 300 million is not chump change. That's a lot of money, but considering the number of IPs that these three companies have alone, I mean, we're talking about Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, the Marvel games, though Marvel's Avengers lost Square Enix money, and that's probably what factored into this sale, is they lost money on that game from Crystal Dynamics. They lost money, and they still haven't been able to recover. The game is still has some players, but they've never turned a profit on that game. And Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game, that was fantastic. That game is great, but it didn't sell as well. I think because of the stigma of the Avengers game, people were afraid that it was going to be the same thing, that it was going to end up being the same thing, and it wasn't. It's actually a really good game, but not a lot of people bought it, and so I think those two things are what factored into the sale. Though Square Enix kept Don't Nod, which makes the Life is Strange series. They kept them. So the Embracer Group gets a lot of IPs from Eidos. They get the Tomb Raider franchise, and they get Legacy of Kain, they get Deus Ex, and they get some big franchises, big IPs. And so 300 million was a steal compared to what Microsoft paid for Activision Blizzard, which I think was massively overvalued. A lot of tech companies, I think, are massively overvalued, and I think their real value is going to show up eventually. A lot of these are just way overpriced for what they are, especially companies like Twitter and Google. I think a lot of the big AAA studios are way overpriced. Speaking of which, that takes us into our next news item. Electronic Arts wants to sell itself to another company or merge with another company, and they've reportedly been in talks with NBC, Universal, Disney, and even Amazon. And I really hope Disney doesn't buy them. I really do. Amazon has not had a very good track record of running game studios. I don't think they really understand how game studios work. Now, they've had some good success with Lost Ark, but I think that's because they are just a publisher for Lost Ark. But NBC Universal, they're one of the few studios that's actually still doing somewhat well right now. It's not seeing a lot of financial problems. NBC Universal is still doing pretty well. All the others are suffering because they embraced politics, and it's costing them money. Like Disney embraced politics, and it's costing them money. And Disney has deep pockets, but those pockets aren't going to last forever. Just that's what's happening to Netflix. Their pockets ran dry, and well, now they're getting rid of the politics. But getting back to this, Activision wants to be sold, wants to be purchased by somebody, and in their latest earnings report, they did not list one specific game. They listed an older game. They listed Battlefield 5, but they didn't list Battlefield 2042. Now, there's a thing going on right now where a lot of the old annual franchises are being rejected by people. People are tired of the same old and broken games. And so Halo Infinite is seeing, player counts drop and seeing complaints from players. Battlefield 2042 has seen a dramatic drop in players. The Call of Duty has seen a apocalyptic drop in players. All three of them, and Ubisoft has been seeing some issues too. A lot of the AAA studios are seeing lots of issues with gamers just not interested in their garbage anymore. And I think what I think is going on is EA is not making the money that they thought they were going to make off of Battlefield 2042. They probably invested a lot into its development, and they're not making back the profits that they should have. And now they're wanting to be bought up by another company in order to pay their investors. I don't know what's actually happening inside of EA at the moment, but I think they're scared. Now, they do have FIFA, and they are, taking advantage of whales, but I wonder if that's dropping off. And that's why they're wanting to be sold. They're wanting to be sold, to get themselves bought by somebody. That means they're wanting an influx of cash. They're wanting to get an influx of cash to pay, and that money will go to the investors. That money will go to their investors. So I think they're wanting to pay off their investors because I think that they're in some kind of trouble. This is a clear sign of it. This is definitely a clear sign that something's very wrong in Electronic Arts. And as I said before, I think they're way overvalued for how much their stock price is worth. I think they might be way overvalued. A lot of tech companies are way overvalued, and we're starting to see their true value starting to come out as their stock prices drop. So I will be keeping an eye on this particular story, seeing exactly what happens and exactly what's really going on inside EA and why they're wanting to do this. Anyway, I have been Mike TheZorch. This has been Gamers Bay Weekly. If you like this video, consider subscribing, click the bell icon, and don't forget to visit our community on MeWe. MeWe is a social media platform that does not sell your data. They do not run ads, so they don't collect any information from you to sell to third parties. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with more video game news.